the annals of warfare, few machines have acquired an almost mythical aura over time. Tanks, aircraft, and ships were all designed for practical purposes: to destroy, to endure, to execute orders. Yet the Tiger tank transcended its role as mere combat equipment, evolving into a potent symbol. In post-war recollections, it came to embody German engineering prowess, a predator amid prey, the final bastion of a doomed regime. Paradoxically, as the war recedes into history, its image grows ever more pristine and majestic, stripping away the harsh truths about what service in this vehicle truly entailed. The enigma of the Tiger begins with a fundamental query. Why does it command such enduring attention, given its relatively brief operational lifespan and production in quantities insignificant to the war's vast scale? The explanation lies not solely in its armament or armor, but in the profound psychological impact it exerted. For the first time in the conflict, the Germans fielded a weapon that instilled fear not only in adversaries, but also in their own ranks. Fear of accountability, of misjudgment, of being stranded in the midst of battle without aid or escape. When Soviet tank crews first encountered this vehicle near Leningrad in August 1942, its designation remained unknown. Reports employed vague descriptors: heavy German tank of a new type, vehicle with impenetrable armor, large caliber gun. Human perceptions of war are filtered through familiarity, so initial confrontations with the unprecedented often spawn rumors. One crew claimed shells ricocheted off its hull like pebbles skipping across water. Another described it destroying their tank from ranges previously deemed impossible for accurate fire. It is crucial to recognize that fear stems not from data, but from a sense of helplessness. In those days, Soviet tankers experienced a reversal of roles, shifting from hunters to the hunted. However, this narrative had an overlooked counterpart. The occupants of the new German tank were gripped by no less apprehension. The crews of the initial Tigers were acutely aware they were operating a machine about which little was truly understood. Manuals were rudimentary, operational experience scant, and spare parts largely theoretical. This was no refined instrument, but an experiment conducted under combat conditions. Every deployment to the front line tested not just the vehicle, but the crew's resolve. Any unusual noise or transmission jolt could signal disaster, not a valiant end, but a humiliating one. Immobilized, stalled, abandoned. Within German units, an unspoken doctrine emerged. The Tiger was not suited for maneuver warfare, but for ambush tactics. It was seldom committed without necessity and was carefully conserved, not merely due to its value, but because a breakdown could immobilize an entire formation. Where a Panzer IV might be jury-rigged on site, the Tiger demanded specialists, time, and resources chronically absent at the front. Meanwhile, tales of the new tank spread across theaters faster than the vehicle itself. In North Africa, where Rommel struggled to maintain a crumbling line, Tigers served as near-theatrical props in the conflict. The appearance of just a few could halt an entire Allied advance. Allied tankers, unaware of their scarcity, imagined the Germans producing these behemoths in dozens, if not hundreds. This was a perceptual error, yet in war, such misconceptions prove as lethal as artillery. The Allies swiftly learned to dread the Tiger as an abstract menace. It featured in reports even where absent. Any Panzer IV with a long-barreled gun was reflexively labeled a Tiger. This phenomenon bordered on the anecdotal. The fewer actual Tigers on a sector, the more frequent the sightings. Unintentionally, the Germans had forged a tool of psychological warfare. Beneath this veneer lay an uncomfortable reality. Each Tiger was akin to a handcrafted prototype, demanding ideal conditions that war rarely afforded. Its crew needed to be elite, disciplined, and unflinching. Yet the war of 1943–1944 was anything but measured. Fronts collapsed, decisions were rushed, and tanks were hurled into breaches to plug gaps. Here the legend began to fracture. It soon became evident that the Tiger excelled in brief, meticulously planned engagements, but faltered amid the disorder of retreats. Conceived for an advancing army secure in its prospects, it ill-suited a nation inexorably losing ground. Every kilometer of withdrawal amplified its vulnerabilities. Each vehicle abandoned en route stood as a silent testament to overreach. Perhaps the bitterest irony is that the more Germany invested in perpetuating the Tiger's myth, the greater the toll on those who crewed it. They were indoctrinated as the vanguard, expected to achieve the improbable, with a machine deemed infallible against failure or retreat. In truth, they often fought in scenarios where simpler tanks held advantages simply because they could be swiftly repaired or replaced. Thus, the Tiger evolved beyond a mere weapon into an emblem of a war that prioritized exceptionalism over dependability, spectacle over resilience. This marks only the inception of its authentic chronicle, one where every resounding shot conceals the silence of forsaken vehicles and the soldiers who stood by them until the end. Shortly after its debut engagements, the Tiger inhabited dual realms. In one, captured in newsreels and triumphant dispatches, it appeared as the quintessence of might, advancing unassailable and obliterating opposition. In the other, far less polished, it functioned as a burdensome liability, necessitating an elaborate logistical framework. As the war dragged on, these parallel existences diverged sharply. To opponents, the Tiger long retained a near mythic quality. Troops seldom saw it up close, but heard of it incessantly. Accounts proliferated, embellished with flourishes, exaggerations, and fabrications. A single tank morphed into three into a company into a phantom battalion. This was particularly pronounced on the Western Front, where American units were still accruing combat acumen. Novice Sherman crews lacked the knack for distinguishing genuine threats from hearsay, so every clash with German armor prompted the internal query, could this be it? The situation worsened because the Tiger superficially resembled the familiar Panzer IV, yet behaved distinctly. Tankers learned to identify it by subtleties, the deep rumble of its engine, its reluctance to close distances, favoring long-range fire. This bred anxiety. Even if the German tank proved otherwise, the engagement unfolded under worst-case assumptions, with hesitation, uncertainty, delays in judgment. And war spares no mercy for indecision. Yet, while adversaries feared the Tiger as an archetype, German crews began dreading it as a tangible ordeal. Assignment to a heavy tank battalion swiftly transitioned from esteemed honor to perpetual strain. Any movement provoked more unease than combat itself. Battle offered clarity, a target, an enemy. On the march, the adversary was the tank itself, prone to overheating, stalling, or failing from minor defects, leaving the crew exposed between lines, without support, in a vehicle nearly impossible to recover. German officers increasingly grappled with a quandary: commit Tigers to action or preserve them. Preservation meant forfeiting momentum. Employment risked total loss. Unlike simpler designs, the Tiger brooked no improvisation. It demanded reconnaissance, infantry backing, and artillery coordination. But by mid-1943, the war resembled less a strategic game and more a conflagration battled bare-handed. This proved acutely evident on the Eastern Front post-Kursk. Though Tigers demonstrated strong tactical efficacy there, Germany's strategic position deteriorated irrevocably. Withdrawal became routine, and retreat paired poorly with heavy armor. Every demolished bridge or ruined path posed a snare. Crews sometimes pre-planned demolitions, debating who would plant charges if abandonment loomed. Not discussions of battlefield defeat, but of mechanical impasse. Meanwhile, the Allies adapted. They grasped that frontal assaults on Tigers were folly. If armor proved unbreachable at standard ranges, combat doctrine shifted. Hunting commenced. Tigers became priority targets for artillery, airstrikes, and engineers, not to destroy outright, but to incapacitate. A damaged track or jammed turret equated to condemnation. Air supremacy emerged as pivotal. For tankers, nothing erodes morale like enemy dominance overhead. The Tiger's bulk defied concealment. It couldn't be swiftly camouflaged or maneuvered to cover. It presented an obvious mark, and crews knew it intimately. Any aircraft drone prompted instinctive hunching, bracing for aerial assault, the most impotent fate for armored might. Even absent aviation, time eroded the Tiger's edge. Manufacturing standards declined, components grew cruder, assembly sloppier. Imperceptible at first glance, these flaws manifested in service. Vehicles failed more often without enemy intervention. Where repairs once seemed feasible, each breakdown now hastened the grim verdict: self-destruction. At this juncture, myth and actuality decisively parted. Externally, the Tiger retained its menacing facade. Internally, it bred chronic tension. Tankers fixated less on victory and more on averting immobilization, breakdowns, or trailing the column. Warfare in a Tiger devolved into attrition, of steel and psyches alike. This raises another uncomfortable inquiry seldom posed. What was the human cost of the Tiger concept itself? Not enemy lives, but German ones. Not those lost in fair combat, but through inability to withdraw, mechanical failure, or orders to hold at all costs. The Tiger extracted more from its crews than war typically demands of soldiers. Unwavering faith in a machine that increasingly betrayed it. Nevertheless, crews persisted in fighting, not from conviction in triumph, but from lack of alternatives. The legend endured autonomously, ensnaring those within. Herein lies the most poignant chapter of its saga, not about machinery, but about the individuals it inexorably ground down. By war's twilight, the Tiger increasingly assumed the role of a performer in a theater with a departing audience. It was still deployed, still lent an air of formidable power, but strategic rationale evaporated. Designed as an icon of offensive prowess, it devolved into a mobile fortress, a desperate bid to hold untenable ground. 1944 marked a watershed not just for battle lines, but for the mindset of German armored formations. Where Tiger crews once anticipated support, foresight, or at least the semblance of control, they were now thrust into the fray as stopgap measures. Orders boiled down to delay. Not conquer, not breach, not annihilate, just impede. For hours. Occasionally a day, sometimes to the last round. Under such duress, the Tiger bordered on mockery. Its capabilities suited engagements with room, standoff, positional choice. Instead, it navigated retreat's mayhem. Shattered routes, refugees, jumbled convoys, fragmented units. Crews frequently found themselves in predicaments where even flawless machinery altered nothing. They might dispatch several foe vehicles, stall advances, forge fleeting gains, only to succumb to fuel shortages, isolation, or blocked retreat. The irony lay in its peak tactical lethality amid minimal strategic import. Crews often exhibited supreme skill, composure, terrain exploitation, ambush setups. In isolated instances, they rendered sectors lethal quagmires for the enemy. Yet such vignettes dwindled, their price escalating. By then, Allies no longer viewed the Tiger as supernatural. Experience, numbers, and assurance prevailed. It remained hazardous, demanding prudence, but terror yielded to calculus. They mastered encirclement, exhaustion, mobility denial. Where once a Tiger sighting might halt offensives, now it merely refined tactics. Bolster artillery here, summon air there, bypass elsewhere. Infantry responses proved telling. Early on, troops shunned heavy German tanks. By 1944, they recognized an immobile Tiger as nearly neutralized. It evoked fear but not reverence, a critical distinction in war. Reverence acknowledges potency. Fear, sans respect, is mere transient hurdle. Within German ranks, morale plummeted further. Losses of seasoned crews were replenished by green recruits. Youths entered Tigers without comprehension of the demands. They were told they commanded the war's premier tank, omitting that it forgave no lapses, no abrupt maneuvers, no errant paths, no panic. Crews increasingly saw their vehicle not as safeguard, but as burden. Too conspicuous, too precious, too intricate. It couldn't be casually ditched or substituted. Every choice, halt, pivot, hazard, carried amplified gravity. As conditions worsened, this weight crushed those inside. Another poignant facet emerged. The Tiger often weaponized against its own crews morally. Its fame stemmed from ace exploits, yet most tankers fell short, operating without aid, without preparation time. Each loss, not to gallant combat but to malfunction or scarcity, registered as personal failure, verging on betrayal of the ideal. Wars close saw Europe's roads littered with Tiger hulks. Some battle-scarred, others meticulously scuttled by crews. Often, no combat traces or enemy remains nearby. Merely forsaken machinery, casualty of circumstance. Such vignettes seldom grace chronicles, clashing with the myth. They speak not of heroism, but of impotence. These mute relics encapsulate the Tiger's true narrative, not dramatic clashes or tally records, but how a symbol of supremacy proved unprepared for protracted struggle. It craved conditions Germany could no longer furnish. Thus, each late-war Tiger dispatched to the front represented not advance toward victory, but deferral of the inevitable. The legend persisted in dispatches, anecdotes, enemy trepidations. But for insiders, it morphed into an inescapable shadow. When hostilities ceased, this shadow lingered longest, in the remembrances of scarce survivors who grasped the myth's forging cost. Post-war, the Tiger embarked on a second, far more triumphant vocation, that of legend. Amid Europe's ruins, charred metropolises, and myriad dead, societies craved stark icons to process the ordeal. The Tiger fit impeccably, tangible, imposing, iconic. It fused adversary dread, vanquished pride, and historians' awe. Allied veterans recounted it as nigh invincible. Sincere yet imprecise tales, memory amplifying stress while rare brushes with peril eclipsed routine skirmishes. Thus, the Tiger ballooned in collective post-war psyche, growing larger, fiercer, mightier than actuality. Defeated German society clung to this trope. It conveniently framed loss not as intellectual or engineering shortfall, but numerical overwhelm and fate. Superior tech, just insufficient quantity. This soothed more than admitting systemic flaws, reckless strategy, ethical depletion. Scholars and popularizers eagerly amplified it. The tiger sold well, in tomes, periodicals, replicas, cinema. It dissected into vivid vignettes, solo duels, blazing foes, unpunished long shots. Such drama readily mythologizes, being accessible. Far harder to depict idle weeks, breakdowns, fuel-less treks, senseless directives. Eventually, the tiger's persona detached from context. Viewed as absolute, war's finest tank, as if in isolation, divorced from production, supply chains, humanity. Production totals, operators, conditions became irrelevant. Only steel, cannon, myth endured. Herein resides the subtlest irony. Judged by verity over fable, the tiger symbolizes imbalance, not dominance. It mirrors emphasis on rarity over ubiquity, flair over sturdiness. Viable early war, entrapment in endurance contest. For crews, this snare proved merciless. No chronicle abstractions, they chilled, fatigued, erred, despaired, aspired to survive. Seldom consulted on mythic participation, merely mandated conformity. Each reality myth rift exacted payment from them. Today, museum tigers captivate effortlessly, static yet formidable. Thick plating, hulking turret, predatory lines. But exhibits remain mute. They omit crews' vigilant nights, attuned to engine quirks. They conceal the anguish of self-sabotage, retreating afoot, leaving not mere metal but epics of dread and toil. The tiger's genuine tale defies binary framing. Neither unalloyed marvel nor feudal beast, it was era's offspring, when war sought simplicity but reaped complexity. It illustrated that edge in one domain offsets no other's frailties, and that armament, however formidable, remains hostage to its creators and wielders. In this vein, the tiger transcends tankdom, a cautionary tale. Myths comfort yet peril. Exceptionalism's stakes can blind astute leaders. Behind every storied weapon lie not just triumphs, but shattered lives of those ensnared within. And perhaps this explains our persistent discourse on the tiger decades hence. Not for supremacy, but for its stark revelation of legend's toll. One born by flesh, not forge.